Welcome to Afterthoughts, everybody. This is our Recommend or Refute episode. I am your host, John Garcia. We got a solid lineup for you tonight, I think. You'll find out. Joining me, as always, standard co-hosts here, Ryan King.
Hey, my wife is out of town, but I actually watched something regular instead of finding shit to watch.
Hey, there we go.
Define regular.
It's a change.
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2. It's hard to sleep, so.
Yeah, do that medication. Consult with your doctor if Aquaman 2 is right for you. And also with
Please
us...
do not consume alcohol while on Aquaman 2. May lead to hallucinations and or sleepwalking.
That other sultry voice reading you the side effects on the back of the box is Michael Dixon.
What's up, John? I'm excited to get into what we watched this week. Watched a lot of good movies this week, so I think I'm going to bring something good to the group here.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to hear about it. So, Dixon, why don't we kick off with you? What do you got?
All right, so this week I have been catching up on a lot of my favorite 2023 movies and watching a few or rewatching some of my favorite 2023 movies and catching up on some that I haven't gotten to yet. We're recording this before the Oscars. This will post after the Oscars, but I'm finalizing my year-end movie award blog post where I rank every single movie that I saw from the past year, and that's always a fun and exhausting ordeal, but watched a lot of stuff this past week, and one of the final 2023 movies that I've been wanting to get to for a long time and hadn't watched was The Eight Mountains.
Ciao Bruno. Ciao Pietro. Negli ultimi 10 anni con mio padre non ci ho mai parlato. Lo so. Mi parlava di me. Quando tuo papà l'ha vista, ha voluto costruire una casa qua. Ha chiesto a me di costruirla. L'unica cosa che mi serve è il manovale.
I liked it so much that I was like, holy shit, I really love this. This might actually be my favorite movie of the year. I'm going to need to watch it again. So I watched it twice in the past few days and really loved this movie. It's an Italian film set in the Italian Alps, shot on location. It's just a gorgeous movie. It follows two friends, Pietro and Bruno, starting from when they're about 11 years old. Bruno lives in the Alps with his uncle, learning how to be a bricklayer and cheese farmer. And they are, he's smart, but he's not really schooled. He lives in the mountains and, is just kind of raised to work. Pietro is from a family from the city of Turin. They vacation to the mountains every summer, and Pietro hangs out with Bruno when he's there because Bruno is literally the only other kid in the town that they go and visit. This movie spans the course of about 25, 30 years and follows Pietro and Bruno as their friendship develops throughout their lives. It's a fascinating film, kind of about the constancy and evolution of friendship and how that can change throughout one's life. And as Pietro and Bruno become adults, Pietro's father passes away. He wills a broken down cabin to Pietro and asks Bruno to build it with him. So they spend a summer in the Alps building this cabin and decide that every year they're going to go back to that cabin during the summer when the snow melts and reunite. Pietro is kind of working odd jobs in the city and hasn't really achieved academically or economically what he wanted. And Bruno is working in the mountains trying to have a dairy farm like his ancestors did. And he is obsessed with farming manually in the way that his mountain people have always done it. He doesn't want to bring in new technology to make things easier or anything like that. So it's kind of two very different outlooks on life, but they're able to come together once a summer or more or less often if they're able to, and hang out at this cabin and just kind of have a reprieve from their lives outside of that. And it's just a really beautiful story about friendship. And it was something that I haven't really seen a movie like that before. That's I kept expecting it to turn into a romantic thing, and it's not. It's just about two friends kind of trying to find solace in one another and peace in this place up in the mountains that is separate from everything else. and then as they age and change, they start to have different viewpoints on life, and that has impacts on their relationship and how they interact with each other and with the rest of the world when they leave the cabin and go out and live their lives. But it's kind of hard to explain this movie. It really is just kind of an experience. It's very much a hangout movie. It's just gorgeous to look at. It's shot on location in the Alps. The score is great. It's actually not an original score. The directors were listening to the music of Daniel Norgren while they were making this movie, and they asked him to write an original score, and he said, no, but you can use my songs if you want. And so they use a lot of his songs, specifically from this one 2015 album, that just work really perfectly with the movie, and they add this kind of mystical, hypnotic vibe to the beautiful imagery that you're seeing on screen. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film. Again, it's kind of hard to explain why I liked it so much, but it's such a peaceful, calming experience. I feel like it's something that I could watch like all the time and never get tired of it. It's just such a beautiful film and just such a just kind of a peaceful experience to sit and watch it. So had a really great time. It's on Criterion Channel. It's also available to rent on most streaming services. So you should be able to find it fairly easily.
Nice. In terms of tone and like the way that it feels as a movie, how, like, I'm thinking, it sounds like you're describing Patterson to me. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to watch. But also, it sounds like this could be much better if it's described as a hangout film that has like kind of this quiet moment. Also, it has a relationship that sounds genuinely interesting to watch, like childhood friends grow. Mm-hmm. So is it tonally just kind of standard sort of indie? Like, it's gorgeously shot. It has like those quiet moments. Is it really meditative? Like on terms of like where the pacing is, dialogue and exchanges, are we talking like Memoria level meditative or something closer to a standard drama?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle, not quite to the level of slowness that Memoria is. It's definitely a slower paced film, but I was enthralled throughout both times I watched it and never felt like it was dragging or that it was too long. But yeah, it's kind of like just watching a hangout movie about two best friends that keep kind of coming back into each other's lives periodically to kind of refresh and reset and understand more about themselves and each other and try to kind of gain wisdom to go on living their lives outside of that relationship and back within it.
Do you see any of their life like outside of this interaction, or is it all picked up from like them talking about it?
You see some of their lives outside of their own relationship, but it's not a lot. It's like you'll see Pietro working as a line cook in the city and then coming back to the mountains and sharing his experiences with Bruno, or you'll see Bruno kind of struggling to start his farm and then kind of coming back there. Or sometimes they'll bring people from their outside lives to that cabin. So Pietro will bring his friends from the city, or Bruno will bring his like wife and kid to the cabin, and they'll have, you know, these interactions with people from outside of their friendship.
Okay. All right.
I'm interested to know, like, from an emotional standpoint, experientially for the movie, is it ups and downs in the relationship? Because it seems when you reflect on the changing of friendships, obviously you can go, I mean, if you want to boil it down, you can go one or two ways. The friendship is going to dissolve, or the friendship is getting stronger, or I guess is the middle road of like, there are times of trial. Does this have, I think of other movies that are meditative that have like almost an overwhelming, even as compelling and engaging emotionally as they have an overwhelming wholesomeness to them. Does this feel like a wholesome film, or does it feel like they're like friends and it's connected more in like that realism and less of a saccharine sort of sweetness towards the end? Yeah,
it's definitely not an overly sweet film. It does have kind of a more grounded nature to it, where, you know, the friends don't always see eye to eye on everything. They do have disagreements, and it has a, you know, kind of interesting ending on you know, thoughts on whether friendships are meant to last for an entire life or not, and whether you can learn something from a relationship and get to a point where maybe it's not serving you anymore, and maybe you move on to something else and be happy with what you had and not, you know, kind of have to obsess over the things that didn't work out. There's also an interesting idea about like how much can you actually help someone if they don't want to be helped, right? If they are determined to live their lives a certain way and you see that harming people around them, if you try to step in and help them out, is that even possible? Or if someone is just determined to kind of live the way they want, or has like a fatalistic attitude about how this is just the way things are going to go, and even if you help me, I can't stop these things because of, you know, my genetics or where I come from, and just like this is how it goes, and you know, I can't stop the cycle of abandonment in my family, and therefore I'm not going to spend time with my kid, and if you come in and tell me not to do that, you know, it's not going to matter, you know. So like, it's interesting idea of how you handle friends who disagree with you, and what happens when you feel like you need to step up and help them to, you know, kind of get their shit together, and if they may not be willing to do so.
Gotcha. Well,
so yeah, but it's like, you know, it's not like an argumentative film. It's a very beautiful film, and a kind of a pensive, you know, kind of thought experiment on these ideas with just this beautiful music and incredible imagery. And I had a really great time with it. I ended up putting it number 2 on my list of movies for the year, right behind Killers of the Flower Moon.
Nice. Well, I look forward to reading that review and that list. And we'll pump that here. We're gonna bump that. What's the medium?
Dixon00.medium.com.
There you go. Yeah, get it out there in the universe. All right, we'll move on to Ryan. Ryan, what do you got?
Yep. Yeah. I was looking for some bullshit to watch. Like, I'll admit, I just kind of just like open up like Netflix or Hulu or something, kind of just start scrolling and see if something speaks to me. And as I went by, I saw a new anime movie that I hadn't heard of, that I guess dropped on Netflix in mid-January. So I watched, it's called Maburoshi.
製鉄所ではありません。先日の爆発を機に変化したのです。空が割れてるよ。我らは神器によってこの店に閉じ込められてしまったのです。菊入正宗、14歳。俺たちはどこにも行けない。
The full title in Japanese is longer, but essentially Maburoshi means illusion. This is from the director of A Whisker Away and Oh Girls and Their Savage Season, Mari Okada. She's coming up quite a lot as a writer. She's been writing for a long time, television and movies, and now she has a good number of directorial things under her belt too. And I feel like this is again in that spot where, you know, people are thinking the Studio Ghibli kind of going down, like, oh, you know, where's Japanese animation going? But as we mentioned, like in the retrospective, 2 movies got nominated for Best Animated Feature from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a lot of other studios and directors that are coming to kind of fill the gaps with original stories, right? There is certainly like still a lot of adaptations. The first Slam Dunk, I can't find, it's not in the States. It kind of pisses me off because I'd like to watch it. So there certainly are like adaptations or continuing, you know, movies of shows that are popular, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of new stuff that comes out in anime, and they're willing to take challenges and gambles. The studio is Mappa, which is just really beautiful animation. Like they've just, I always know it's going to be good. So I think the animation in this is one of the really big highlights. The story, essentially we see it through teenagers' eyes. They're not quite to high school. So I think maybe like 13, 14, and they're in a small town that just has a steel mill, and that's kind of like what the town is known for, and what for years what this town has been centered around. And one night that steel mill explodes. The kids look outside and they see it, like see the fire, see the explosions, but then it's kind of like they just jump backwards in time and it hasn't exploded. And in fact, the whole town kind of just gets stuck in a time bubble, I guess. So time passes, but they never age, and things don't really change around the town. Every once in a while, they'll see these like huge cracks in the sky, but like smoke dragons or wolves or whatever the fuck they are will like go up in the sky and like close it all back up and like fix everything. And so years pass, like you kind of find out as you're watching this that like, you know, the question about Groundhog Day is always like how many like days or years or whatever was he stuck in there. We definitely see that like years have passed, and I find it funny that like the kids still go to school. Right? They're just like, everyone is trying to pretend that everything is normal and to keep things going, but there's all these things around the edges that are like showing everyone kind of in this stuck state. They actually have they point out one woman who was pregnant who's just perpetually pregnant. Like she'll never have that child. She's just perpetually pregnant.
Wow.
And so kind of the weird like edges of like a situation like this. And kind of as it continues, it's definitely like very teenage horny at the beginning. Just like while A Whisker Away was like great to watch with your kids, this is one that's like probably good to watch with your preteens and teens and older, but younger kids, like it's a little too much about the relationships of these teenagers and, you know, kind of the usual like confessions of love and stuff like that you see in anime all the time. But at the center of like this mystery of why the town is stuck in this loop and what's going on, pretty early on, our main character gets introduced to a girl who is pretty much feral that's at the steel factory, that for some reason she's being kept there. And we find out she's actually aging because she like came in afterwards, like after they got stuck in the bubble, she somehow came in and is, you know, from the outside world into their bubble now.
Yep. And
she's kind of at the center of all of this, like the mystery of all of it as it unravels. So I think, again, like A Whisker Away, I kind of go back to that because it was like the last thing I watched from this director. It's good and very watchable, and it is very interesting and has some really great points. It doesn't hit to like the excellent go out of your way to see it, like I think Suzume and obviously A Boy and the Heron really do, but you won't be disappointed in watching it. Like it's good, it tugs the heartstrings. The relationship between the main character, essentially the two main characters, like as it grows, it kind of makes sense, especially for preteens where they don't really know what the fuck is going on. They don't know how they actually feel about each other. They don't, you know, part of it is like they don't even know what love is. Like that's part of the conversation within this. And that's kind of like the core of it. There's this mystery, but the core is this like building relationships and growing and understanding about love. And as well, like all the town kind of, they don't feel any pain. And like they're stuck in this loop. They even point out at one point, like, they don't smell anymore. Like, no one ever gets, like, smells dirty or anything. Like, everything is really literally stuck. And so you sort of get to this, like, what is living at that point, right? And that's another question that kind of comes up and is answered through the course of it. So I thought it was pretty interesting in where it went and the ideas here that it explored. And it kind of just goes through its mystery is like, that's the thing that holds it together. I think this is something I see a lot of people being like, well, what really happened? Why were there these two split worlds? Like, why did they get and all that? And within the like universe, there's a guy that's like, oh, the gods of the mountain were like pissed that we were taking too much steel and they've like condemned us to a purgatory. And another person that's like, no, the gods of the mountain like knew the time was up because the steel factory is blowing up and they've kept the city in like a perfect bubble because they want the town to be remembered because they're the gods of the town. Like everyone has their like belief of what's going on and who knows what the fucking answer is. Like again, like the end of it, I was like, that's not the point. Like, you know, it's one of those where like, it's kind of mysterious and weird and magical because it needs to be to service this interesting plot to talk about and dwell on these concepts. But if you stop to be like, well, what happened and how did it happen? Like that's not what this is about.
It sounds mildly similar, at least in my brain. It's triggering Sky Crawlers vibes in a way. It's like perpetual state. I mean, minus like, you know, it's not a military commentary, but
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it's not the like slow pace or military commentary of Skycrawlers, but there are those thoughts on like being stuck as a kid in Skycrawlers and their relationships, right, between each other and like what are they feeling? Do they feel anything? Yeah, definitely some of that vibes.
Interesting. I saw A Whisker Away and remember being really impressed by the animation and thinking that the plot was kind of stupid and simplistic.
Like, it's
and
like, okay, yeah.
Kind of dumbed down. Like it felt like very kind of condescending and childish, I thought. And I was like, it's beautiful to look at, and that's kind of enough to carry it where I would like barely recommend it. But do you feel like that she has kind of progressed as a writer in this film? Like, is there something, it sounds like a more interesting concept. Like, is there something more there to grasp onto that makes this more interesting than A Whisker Away?
Yeah, I agree. Whisker Away is relatively straightforward, and I would say this one at the core is like a romantic kind of drama, but at this age it's more confusing. It isn't just sort of like they grow together kind of thing. It's a much more confusing and stop and start kind of thing. I think this is a lot better than A Whisker Away. I think because it's presenting something, the core, the concept is frozen in town, the way it kind of talks about it, dealing with the people's emotions. Like it's interesting to me, even from a world building aspect of like, how do they deal with like, why, like, what do we do to continue? They actually, every single person every day has to write down about themselves because they're wanting to track if they change. And so they've been for like years filling up like books of like them writing about themselves. So just like weird things like that where I'm like, all right, that's interesting. Like, yeah, I guess what would you do? How would you know like how long you've been there, who you are, who you were? Like you all start to lose it. And then Mappa is the studio. I don't remember the studio. It was A Whisker Away, but it wasn't a top studio like Mappa. And so I think the animation here is like even better. It is really excellent animation. Just like the like the smoke that comes out and like the way it moves around, the stuff they do with the cracks. There's some interesting things where like once the cracks happen, they kind of see between the dimensions and like move in and out of it. Like all that was really well presented visually. So I do think this is better. I think the characters are more well-rounded. Like Whisker Away, it's just sort of like, I wish I wasn't here, and then you turn into a cat. Right? Kind of looks like a basic kid shit. This one, there is some more like complex, like why do they feel that way? Like what happened to the characters, things like that.
Is Mappa the studio that did Your Name and like Suzume and those?
I don't think so. Mappa has been doing, I know they did like Demon Slayer. I think they've mostly been doing television of like the bigger action television stuff. I don't remember who did Your Name.
Your Name was like one of the most beautifully animated films I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The studio that did Your Name like also did Suzume, and I think they kind of have been, they're sort of like a Studio Ghibli where they're just in their own set of things working with their like one or two directors.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's not Mappa. I think it's
I know it's not Mappa, but I don't know what it was. Yeah, I think that's just their studio or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, so you are recommending this?
Yeah, I recommend it. Yeah, it was good. It was a great watch. I wasn't disappointed. I was interested the whole time with what was going on. I understood the character motivations for the most part. It's entertaining. There's like, funny bits here and there. So it's all around good. It doesn't quite elevate over. And I do feel like this director author, like she has been getting better and better. And this is kind of at that point where kind of the same as the person that worked on Your Name. Like I was like, they're going to hit something. And then sure enough, they do. Right. And then it could go from there. I think she's on that cusp of getting her footing on like what she wants to tell. This is her story entirely, like her direction entirely. So I'm like, all right, she's kind of found a voice, and I think she can kind of hit big, soon. The same with the creator that worked on Mirai. Like when I saw Mirai, I was like, I really liked Mirai, like really hit emotional strings well. And I was like, that person's about to like hit big. Their next few things are going to be big. And sure enough, like they've been coming out with stuff and kind of getting better and better.
Well, nice. There you have it, everybody. Maburoshi, is that what it was?
Maburoshi.
Okay. Maburoshi. A recommend from Ryan. speaking of animated movies that have moments and the animation is decent, I got something to bring. It seems like a movie that Ryan's kids would have subjected him to at some point.
Okay.
And that's 2009's G-Force.
For over 100 years, the government has trained and deployed animals as espionage agents. Starting in the Civil War, carrier pigeons delivered messages from the front lines. Later, dolphins were trained to detect mines. But now, there has been a breakthrough that goes beyond anything that science had imagined. A covert espionage team known as G-Force.
This is a rodent.
We're official agents of the FBI.
Your mission is to stop this man, Leonard Saber. He's created a mechanized army that threatens the entire free world.
That's impossible.
The odds are 1,000,000 to 1.
Time to get this party started.
Darwin, Blaster, Juarez, Speckle, Smooch.
G-Force.
Ew, Grandpa, what's that?
It's a horrible crime against nature.
I know of it.
Yes.
I certainly remember when it came out and there were advertisements for it.
David right here to tell you about G-Force, the most fun you'll have at the movies this summer. If a grand slam is hit during the MLB All-Star Game, the first 1 million people to have registered at Disney.com will win a free ticket to see G-Force in 3D on July 24th.
Holla!
Holla!
This is new to me.
So G-Force is a Disney film produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. It's actually Jerry Bruckheimer's first 3D animated film, and it's a hybrid animation too. So it's like real actors and then some CGI critters in it. It came out when I was working in a movie theater, and I remember seeing the trailers for it and thinking it was really dumb. The plot is basically, what if Jason Bourne was 4 guinea pigs instead of a whole man? And
do they have amnesia?
They kind of. They don't remember
Okay.
where they came from. They just know that they're part of the military industrial complex and that they're helping the FBI solve crimes. So until the FBI decides to try to cut their funding, and that's when they try to prove that they have what it takes to be a team that should be employed by the government. And like the whole plot surrounds this big tech mogul who's about to release his latest line of coffee makers and refrigerators that are powered by, and you're going to get Small Soldiers flashbacks, like a military grade chip that's supposed to make them the Internet of Things. And it's not that they'll communicate in any one person's house. It's that they'll all communicate over a network in the world and unite everybody under this company. And that's not even like the evil plot. The evil plot is the military chips turn them into monster cyborg things. Like the coffee maker has like claws and fucking hobbles around in the fridge, like tries to eat people. It's like some Tim Burton shit.
Is it coffee makers and refrigerators, or is this a weird combination
it's like all
machine?
Appliances, but not unified. I know you can be unified appliances too. Like a microwave at one point fuses with toasters to shoot toast and try to kill people with that. That's like a whole thing.
Okay.
This movie,
when it could just microwave them to death.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Why would a toaster need to combine with a microwave in order to shoot toast at people? It can already do
because
that.
because the microwave had the arms. I don't know why, but it had the arms that could aim the toaster.
I have yet to encounter a microwave with arms, but I don't know. I don't use my microwave very often.
So I watched this movie with a group of my hyperreal friends because one of them, he lost a family member, was having a rough time, and he kind of wanted to watch something that was nostalgic for him, like something he saw as a kid. And so I was like, you know what? Let's watch G-Force. And I have the setup to do it in 3D, so let's do that, because why not? If I'm going to watch what I've always assumed was a terrible movie, might as well see it in 3D so it really just assaults me. And I was pleasantly surprised, as I'm sure not many people are. That's probably because my brain's rotted at this point. And I went into it. It's kind of like Avatar in a way. I already know the story is stupid. I just have to show up and look at the visuals, and maybe I'll have a good time. And I did. This movie's directed by, it's his first time and last time directing, Hoyt Yeatman, which is a great name.
Yeatman.
Okay.
He got the idea from his son, Hoyt Yeatman IV, which is Yes. All right.
His son is the fourth.
He's the fourth. Yes. So there's a third. He's Hoyt Yeatman Jr. and his son is the fourth. So he must have a third.
It's like a uncle.
Is he like George Foremaning his kids? Are they all just named Hoyt Yeatman?
Exactly.
Is that?
Yeah. I dub thee Hoyt of Yeatman. And he was the visual producer on like The Abyss and The Fly. And if you look up his like filmography, it's insane. He's done a lot of really cool shit. And so
G-Force.
Yeah. And so his son was like, I want to watch a movie about guinea pigs being Jason Bourne. We're 4 guinea pigs in a Jason Bourne outfit. And he was like, all right, I'll take it to Jerry Bruckheimer. Hey, Jerry, I got something for you. And he got greenlit to do this. He got like an all-star cast. We've got Sam Rockwell at the head. We've got Jon Favreau. We've got Tracy Morgan, Penelope Cruz, Nicolas Cage. Bill Nighy is in this. Will Arnett and Zach Galifianakis are kind of like, these are like the main folks to just mention because they're
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi is also, he also shows up as a Canadian hamster, which the Canadian part has nothing to do with anything. He just has a small Canadian flag in his hamster cage. I don't know why it's just there. And so like starting out, this movie is swinging for the fences with how many things it can do in 3D that have like Hugo level depth. It's not like, oh, it's coming out at you. It's like, it really wants to try to take you through the smaller environments with like big depth field sort of vibe to it, which makes it just, it's a visually stunning movie. And what's even more impressive is the guinea pig fur and all that shit holds up pretty well. So going into it, I was like, all right, just focus on the visuals. I know the story is stupid. I'm sure that these live action actors are probably giving like 50% in any one scene, which is definitely true for Zach Galifianakis. And like, there's all these other things that like, I really want Ryan to watch it so that he can just tear it apart. Because it would be fun. Because I know he'd be like, why do they drive around in like a rat pest control van? Why do they have tiny guinea pig seats that are only in one part of that van and nowhere else? None of it changes into anything else. Why doesn't the government ask more questions about why guinea pigs can talk? At one point they strap cameras to cockroaches and send them in as like spies. And I was like, okay, where was this in the Pentagon's budget? Like what?
Do the cockroaches also talk?
No, but
how did they know that
they
was
communicate
possible?
And bring swarms of other roaches, and they have names like Paul or whatever. It's just like fucking named roaches. And they come in like tiny treasure chests. Like Zach Galifianakis puts it on the ground and just lets them out. I was like, all right. But yeah, like there's just these insane little gimmicky fucking tools. They all have grappling hooks. They over-sexualize Penelope Cruz's guinea pig, which is
of course they
like,
do.
The moment that she lands, she like jumps up from like the lake and is like shaking, and they play the fucking romantic music. And Tracy Morgan's character the whole time's like, "Wow, we're going out on a date!" And she's like, every time he can get, he just sexually harasses her.
Do they like visually differentiate the guinea pigs?
She has lashes.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
She has lashes.
But did she
That's
just
pretty
look
much
like a
it.
regular ass guinea? Like they all just
it's
fucking look
funny
like guinea
because
pigs?
whenever you look at Tracy Morgan's guinea pig, every other guinea pig has a lot of emotion, but there's something about Tracy Morgan's that's really unsettling. He has these black eyes, like a doll's eyes. It's like all of the shots of his guinea pig are direct front profile, and they don't put the eyes forward to make them more expressive. They're just guinea pig eyes.
Oh.
So it's like even more disturbing.
Is he like breaking the fourth wall in these
No,
scenes?
it's just, he just ends up being, he says the title of the movie once, and that's like the closest they come to breaking the fourth wall. But they treat everything as serious as possible. There's no winks to the camera. Thankfully, not many fart jokes. Thank God.
No,
there's
not
like
many.
There's one fart joke, and
There's
it's just
still
about
one there,
how Jon Favreau has a hamster that has digestion problems. And I was like, all right, fine. Some hamsters probably, or guinea pigs probably have that shit. They've got like this
Feels
kid
like typecasting.
they've got a kid that's like the next level of Sid from Toy Story. He's just like a fucking sociopath who throws Jon Favreau into a snake enclosure at one point almost.
Oh, I'm jealous of that kid.
Yeah,
I'd love to throw Jon Favreau in a snake enclosure.
He like straps Tracy Morgan's guinea pig to an RC car and like rides him around the room, fucking tormenting him. There's like that kind of fucked up shit. This is also like the first pro-vegan movie I've seen from Disney, I think. It's just like bold-faced, like these animals were all abused and worked on by different pieces of industry. And together they can overcome the industry and thwart a CEO by working with the FBI, which is questionable. Anyways, I had a great time with it. The first 2 acts are a bit of a slog. They put in enough visually dazzling shit to kind of keep your brain candied up. Especially if you're like, I don't give a fuck about this plot. I just want to see how bonkers things can get. It goes pretty hard into this is insane. They have like a tiny fly with cameras on it and you fly around behind the fly at times. It's just like, what the fuck's happening? But I will say the other cool thing is this is the first 3D movie I've seen that sacrifices its aspect ratio for 3D effects. So like they take out part of the frame so that they can superimpose things over it whenever like smoke is going, it like goes past the black bars, or when the guinea pigs are parachuting down from a building, they fucking kick out of the screen. And there's these little touches that make it really rad. I didn't even mention that Nicolas Cage does this amazing nerd voice for it.
Agent Speckles.
Cyber intelligence.
I'm setting up a worm to decipher.
You're a genius.
I'm a mole. I got a thing for worms.
He's playing this mole that's like the biggest hacker in the world, who, spoilers, is also a mole in the fucking FBI.
Of course he is.
And like every time that he talks, he's just like, according to my calculations, we're going to be good. Like it just does that. And by the end of it,
have you seen Dream Scenario yet?
No, not yet.
I was going to ask how close it is to that voice.
I need to watch that so that I can know. But yeah, it's great. Every time he's on screen, which is only like, unfortunately, about like a third of the movie, it's great because they have to conceal that he's the bad guy for so much of it. But towards the end, it made me laugh one time really fucking hard because Nicolas Cage, they're like, why are you doing this? You're our friend. And he's like, I'm doing it because they killed my family. And like they flash back to his parents being gassed, Ryan. And his dad's like, if you ever have the chance to bring mankind to their knees, you do it. And like that, he just looks directly into camera and then gets gassed. I was like, my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of really cool action pieces. They've got a lot of cool explosions, practical effects abundant, thanks to Jerry Bruckheimer, and some things that are strangely patriotic, but not in a Michael Bay way where it makes you feel uncomfortable. It's just like, oh, they rode through like some fireworks that happen to be red, white, and blue. But
America,
yeah.
fuck yeah.
Yeah. And like nobody questions when these guinea pigs are rolling around in these like motorized balls fucking through the streets, leading like several SUVs of car chases. And even the FBI is like, why are we chasing guinea pigs? Do we have permission to ask? And fucking Will Arnett's like, you have no permission to ask. Fuck off. Like, catch those guinea pigs. It's like, all right. At some point my brain just overwhelmed and I got shut down and I was like, this is great. Everything about this movie is fantastic. No notes, studio, except they never said G-Force at the end of the movie. They weren't like everything's in ruins and they high-five each other, G-Force. They just close it out on like a wholesome, we're a family note. It's I wish that Vin Diesel had been one of the guinea pigs, honestly.
They don't try to like set up a
G-Force
future
2.
G-Force 2, or they
No.
didn't. They knew. They're like, no, this is all we can.
Not at all. I think that this was also a vehicle. I don't know why it would be, but it was a vehicle for Black Eyed Peas music because they play I Got a Feelin' like 2 or 3 times, and it's from the Needle Drop like every time. And then they play Boom Boom Pow a bunch of times as well.
Oh my God.
Anytime that a montage needs to happen and they need to fill like 2 minutes with something, they're like, all right, kick it over to the Black Eyed Peas. And then you just have to sit there.
Welcome our special guest tonight, once again, the Black Eyed Peas.
Which I showed it to my friend this past weekend. We had a movie-a-thon of bad movies. He absolutely hated this one. It was the one movie that he really couldn't stomach, even though he watched Gods of Egypt and a Neil Breen film and Lichen Colony and everything else. He couldn't make it through G-Force.
But you did. You liked it.
I did. He was so amused by it. He thought it would have been funnier if they tried to use the Black Eyed Peas even more. And even more earnestly. That was his one note.
It's shocking to me that there are legitimate fans of the Black Eyed Peas. You know, it's like it seems like their music is just corporate schlock that is just shat out by the algorithm. It's like, here's a pop song, go sing it, and it's going to be #1 on the charts. And like, there seems to be like, I don't know, they don't really seem to be like a real thing. Like Will.i.am is just a hologram, right? Like he's not like a real person.
I do that.
Yeah, aren't they just made just for like commercials and stadiums?
Well, now,
and like
I heard that Fergie was the reason for that. She's the Yoko of the bunch. Not that Yoko did anything bad to John Lennon anyway. That's my hot take. People need to lay off Yoko.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the Black Eyed Peas, I've only ever known them in the post-Fergie phase, but everybody swears they were great before Fergie. I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know. But yeah.
I'm so fascinated that the original of Let's Get It Started made it all the way through to the record. No one along the way was like, guys, nah, we can't say that.
And then
that song at least is kind of catchy, you know, and like it doesn't make me want to like put a drill bit to my ears, but yeah. I'm not going to talk further about that song. Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
We're not going to get it started on that
song. Yeah, anyways, did y'all have any questions for me about G-Force? Did I lay it out flat for everybody on Front Street?
Yeah, I think you laid it out. I demand you play the video game.
Oh, no, my friend, he said that he played it, and he said he hated it. He was like, 3 levels in, I knew this game was bullshit, but the movie was pretty good. And I was like, all right, I guess we're watching the movie.
Interesting. Who was your favorite voice actor in the movie? Who was the most fun?
Nick Cage, because Nick Cage is a given.
Nick Cage, okay, great.
Nick Cage is a given. I would say my favorite voice actor, well, I'm going to say besides Nick Cage and Steve Buscemi, because when they show up in something, you're just like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you know.
Fine, why not? Sam Rockwell, probably, because like Zach Galifianakis was given like 50%. Penelope Cruz was doing all right. Tracy Morgan didn't know where he was most of the time. It was almost like they were following him around with a paper and they were like, Tracy, say this. And he'd be like, that's amazing.
Yo, I don't like that dude. It's disrespectful when he imitates me. I want him fired.
Oh, come on, it's a goof.
And they're just like, all right. It's like all that he really came in to do.
It's like a recording during breaks from 30 Rock.
Yeah, exactly. He might as well have been Tracy Jordan.
How would you like it if I did an impression of you, Liz Lemon? Hi, I'm Liz Lemon. I like to wear man shirts. Watch me skateboard.
Oh, skateboard?
Hurts, doesn't it?
Maybe they just pulled quotes from 30 Rock. Like that sounds like the shit that he says in 30 Rock.
Exactly.
They just like Isaac Hayes him into the movie.
There you go. Yeah, I would say Sam Rockwell, because Sam Rockwell is doing the most impressive, I don't know if he's trying to, Owen Wilson impression I've heard.
Nice.
To the point where half of our audience thought that it was Owen Wilson for the first half of the movie. And then at the end I was like, no, that's Sam Rockwell. That's weird.
Wow.
But yeah, anyways, G-Force. I don't know if it was just the fact that we were all hyped on it going into it and knew that it was going to be like Avatar level dumb or what, but it was really fun with a bunch of friends. I think alone you'd be like, the fuck is this? But when you have friends and you can react to how absurd a lot of that shit is, it's got to be great. And it's also just visually dazzling. I mean, it's made by somebody who spent their life in VFX, so they knew how to stage a lot of the shots, and the choreography and pieces in it are pretty impressive for what it's doing. So
to be clear, you are not recommending this to people who don't have friends.
Oh, no, I'll recommend it to anybody. I've already recommended it to several people who, and one of them who watched it with me and did not like it. So, but you know what? He laughed his ass off at the end when he saw that really dark scene with Nicolas Cage's parents. And that was all worth it for me. So yeah, now I think fondly on that. Whenever you have the chance, folks, to bring humanity to its knees, you do it.
Okay.
Why not? In my Disney film. So yeah, anyways, G-Force would recommend. So that brings us to the conclusion of this episode. We have a recommendation for Eight Mountains.
The Eight Mountains.
The Eight Mountains. We have a recommendation for Maburoshi and its gorgeous animation. And you have a recommendation for the bonkers. How did this fucking get made? Was that director didn't have a job directing anymore? G-Force. Which is, it's just wild. It's just fantastic.
Man, they had to have like made toys for that too. That didn't sell.
I think they had like a TV series lined up or some shit, and it just all collapsed when it came out. And it was $150 million, and it made $300 million. And
really,
I don't think the 150.
It's a kids movie.
Yeah,
you sell at least 2 tickets every time.
Right.
I don't know if the 150 factors in marketing or what, but not a big hit.
It seems like a big budget for a movie like that.
Jerry Bruckheimer believed in those guineas.
I guess. Is it called G-Force just because it's guinea pigs, or is it like making a play on like, gravity forces and like fighter jets or anything like that?
It's mostly a play on the fact that it's like Fox Force 5.
It was a show about a team of female secret agents called Fox Force 5.
What?
Fox Force 5. Fox as in we're a bunch of foxy chicks. Force as in we're a force to be reckoned with. And 5 as in there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us.
But they're all guinea pigs. So it's like G-Force. They're a force to be reckoned with, and they're guinea pigs. There you go. And even they as a team say they don't like that name. Like in the middle of the movie, Tracy Morgan's like, G-Force. And then they're all like, no, we're not doing that. And they don't do it ever again. Even when they succeed in their mission.
It's like the Arrested Development joke. I think this is going to be a hot mission. We need a name. How about Operation Hot Mother? Let's try to top that. They never did. And Operation Hot Mother was underway.
Oh my gosh. Well, there you have it, everybody. It's a roundtable of recommends from all different walks of enjoyment and engagement. So take a pick, put it on your list, and then blame one of us if you don't like it, I guess. Feel free to write me your letters with your thoughts of G-Force or leave replies on my review on Letterboxd. Let me know how you feel if you dare to watch it. It has no 5-star rating or no 4-star ratings except for mine and my friends, I guess. So there you go. Anyways, this has been an episode of Recommend or Refute with the Afterthoughts crew. I've been your host, John Garcia. Thank you for joining us. And with me as always,
Ryan King. See, I can't get my family to watch something like that because if I brought it to the table, they'd be like, nah, this is suspect. Why
they would know
Dad
something
want
was
to watch
up.
this? Yeah,
you
they
can't
would
recommend
know it was
family
up.
films to them.
I can recommend family films. If they see one that has a premise like that, they're like, no, that can't be good. No, otherwise Dad wouldn't want to watch it.
And
Michael Dixon, thanks for putting up with our bullshit.
Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.